Hello, this is my 23.1 and it's about the job opportunities you can do in the sporting world. So there are three providers in the sport industry. These are public, private and voluntarily. Public providers are funded by the local or national government and the lottery, and therefore by public taxes and lottery organised initiatives like Sport England. They are owned by local council and authorities, and they are open to the public with no membership fees necessary. They aim to make sport accessible to everyone. An example of a job in the public sector is PE, and is a PE teacher in a secondary school, because the local council reward funding to the school to provide sport to the students. The advantage of this is that no membership fees are required to use the facilities. However, a disadvantage is that they are run by the local authorities, and therefore ensuring quality of service may not be a priority to them. Private sector areas which provide sport for business or profit. They are only accessible for members and are mainly there to guarantee profit. They can either be franchised or owned to provide quality service in order to get their profit. So an example of this is Virgin Active and David Lloyd, or an individual business such as a gym. The voluntary sector aims to provide sport in order to increase participation and performance for all ages and abilities. It uses facilities from the council and private grounds. It is run by volunteers and generates money by subscriptions, money raising and lottery grants. An example of an area in the voluntary sector would be a non-profit club like one with a netball team for younger children. So in this area, Mid Sussex Netball Club or Energy. There are certain sectors in the sport industry, so these include sport and recreation, health and fitness, outdoor education, and sport and exercise sciences. So the sport and recreational sector will be sport specific, so it contains jobs which are based around a certain sport. The providers can either be private and voluntary. For example, a football club like Brighton Hove Albion will be in the private sector but have elements like Albion and the community football teams which are voluntarily ran. The workers in this sector will be aiming to provide recreational sport for everyone and to build on sporting excellence for the elite performers, so therefore it works from grassroots level all the way through to elite levels. Examples of jobs in this sector would be a sport promoter, like those who will promote football clubs being run in the local area, and then PE teaching at a local secondary school. The health and fitness sector provides jobs around personal fitness and well-being for the nation. It can provide jobs around a variety of areas and work on many components that will lead to someone being fit and healthy. Jobs being provided by this sector include being a fitness instructor in the gym, or a personal trainer, or a sports therapist. The outdoor education sector are jobs which involve working outside and completing specialist jobs and becoming educated in basic but desired skills. Jobs in this sector are run by people who have specific qualifications which allow them to have the knowledge and skills to pass information on to others who come to their centres. This sector will also provide external sessions which will develop these skills, for example, British military fitness and BOF sessions. Examples of jobs in this sector would include Water Outdoor Activity Centre, where people work to build skills for leadership and teamwork and national trust matters. The sport and exercise sector is a specialist area of the sporting sector. It can either be publicly run or a private business. For example, a public area would be analysis of a university basketballer, biomechanics for an assignment, and a private provider example would be a professional runner asking for a biomechanical analysis whilst they are performing. Jobs in this sector require a large amount of analysis in order to refine techniques used in sports, reduce injuries, and improving the nutritional diet of an athlete in order to improve their performance. Examples of jobs in this sector are the biomechanics working with Brighton Hove Albion to improve the efficiency of techniques used in the game, and sports science and a sports scientist lab working within a university. So one job in the sport and recreational sector is a PE teacher. This is a teacher of physical education and sport at a secondary school. They're required to teach the basics of a variety of different sports, and then a specific sport at a more advanced level for after-school clubs. There are two routes which can be taken to get into PE teaching. Both will require GCSEs at A star to C, including English language, maths, science, and enhanced background checks designed by the head teacher. The ITET route, so that's initial teacher educational training, will require an undergraduate or postgraduate degree in a related subject to PE and then school-led work-based training. The second route will require you to be a sport graduate with a secondary school experience during the degree, and then for you to obtain a role as a sports coach with a UKCC qualification which could lead you to motivate moving into a teacher training programme. The salary of a PE teacher ranges between £16,250 to £30,000. For an unqualified and less experienced teacher, they can move to £22,250 to £38,000 for a more experienced teacher, and then £35,250 to £46,500 for a really experienced teacher, and all those figures are per annum. Transport and getting to the school can be walking if the school you work at is close. Alternatively, the school may be slightly further away, in which case you would have to drive or use public transport. Walking would obviously have no cost, but public transport prices will vary on how far the school is, and as will petrol money if you're driving. The progressions within teaching PE tend to be in leadership roles because of the nature of PE staff. They tend to be more open and trusted due to being coaches as well as teachers, and they have a more casual relationship with their students as they teach while students are up and about and not stuck in a classroom. Therefore, developmental opportunities would be head of department, year leaders, and assistant and deputy headship. By securing one of these progressions will increase the basic wage of the teacher. So the skills required for PE teaching include having good working relationships with colleagues and students, being able to work as part of a team, but using initiative when teaching and showing good leadership skills, being able to manage a class behaviour, and having a good communication in a variety of areas in order to cater for all learning preferences. The hours required for this job are usually from 8:30 till 3 p.m, depending on the school opening times. This does not include time expected for after-school clubs and marking and setting up lesson plans, which is required from the teacher. Obtaining the job is very competitive in the South East due to the amount of people training for it. Progressions once in the job are also competitive because most are open to members of the other departments within the school, so like history, English teachers, which may be more academic and more highly regarded. Health and safety required for the job would include having a DBS check, which is Disclosure and Barring Service, which performs a background check on the individual, examining criminal records and past experiences which may lead to you being a danger to children you're working with. It is also a safety requirement to maintain a personal fitness because in lessons demonstrations would be required, and it is important for the teacher to ensure that they will not injure themselves whilst doing this. A third safety requirement that needs to be considered is an examination of the Child Protection Act, which, because a PE teacher is working with children, they will want to be familiar with in order to ensure their students are being rightly treated outside of the school. The advantages of being a PE teacher is that it is an active job which requires you to be outside for a lot of the day. This is positive because it keeps you moving and doesn't become dull and boring in the sense that you have to be sitting at a desk all day. A second advantage is that you would have long holidays and hours are reasonable, allowing you to have the evenings to yourself after any after-school clubs or fixtures. This is an advantage because it allows you to still have a life to yourself, a life of your own, and do your own fitness or whatever you do with your spare time. Another advantage is that there is a variety of duties a PE teacher can take on, for example, preparing lessons, teaching different levels of abilities, different sports, arranging fixtures, talking to students. This is all positive because it means that the teachers won't get bored and they'll continue doing different tasks, and also allows them to develop a huge skill set. A final advantage is that once the job is accepted, is relatively secure as long as the teacher abides by the expectations because of teachers' unions and a constant stream of work compared to having to generate clients like a personal trainer would have to, and they would be paid monthly, so have a constant income. One negative of being a PE teacher is that you'll be likely to have to work with teenagers, some of which may not be enthusiastic when it comes to exercising, and this might be demotivating and unpleasant due to them being grumpy and stubborn, like a lot of teenagers are these days. And it might be a bad thing because it doesn't make you feel very happy and puts you off teaching. A second disadvantage is that the job is quite full on, requiring you to be standing for most of the day and carrying equipment outside, as well as having to stand on duty at lunch and break times, which prevents you from having a relaxing break. This is negative because it can be quite tiring, so any free time within the evening may be wasted due to feeling tired. Working additional hours for after school clubs and fixtures and coming in early to mark work and covering other teachers' lessons could be negative because the work may not be expected and could be short notice, which prevents you from having much free time and being able to arrange plans in advance. And a final negative is that the training period can last a long time. A degree takes up to 3 years and the ITET may take up to 2 years on top of that, and it requires you to go to a university, which is expensive, and all of this is a negative because it means that you have to start the job in a lot of debt and then you'll have to pay it all back over time. The skill set and outside aspects of the job would suit me a lot because I love being outside and moving about all the time, and I have a lot of similar skills from previous netball teaching and running coaching. However, the job may not be suited to me because it goes to university and that doesn't really appeal to me, and I enjoy having a lot of time in the evenings for my own training, which may be affected by the additional hours which are required from me in after school clubs. So a job in the health and fitness sector is a sports physiotherapist. Sports therapists diagnose and treat sport injuries, aiding those who have been injured to overcome and rehabilitate themselves back to their usual exercise pattern. The training route to a sport physiotherapist requires a physiotherapy degree, which has been approved by the Health and Care Professional Council, that's the HCPC, a professional registration as a physiotherapist, a master's degree in a relevant area, 1 to 2 years experience working as a physiotherapist, and a good understanding of sports training methods is also a requirement to have an approved DBS check. The salaries of a sport therapist vary with experience, so a beginner in the private sector would earn about £23,000 to £26,000 per annum. A more experienced one would earn around £30,000 and £30,000 in the private sector and £32,000 in the public sector. And a highly experienced one would earn around £45,000, and those are the ones that work with professional athletes can earn much more than that. A sports physiotherapist can either be stationed at a studio, which would be accessed by public transport and driving and even walking or cycling if you live close. However, some sports therapists would be unable to be at home a lot because they'd be travelling with a team or with an individual athlete. In that case, they would have to be transported via coach with the team, so expenses hopefully would be paid. The progressions within this role include becoming a university teacher for physiotherapy, as well as opening your own sports therapy clinic. The skills required for a sports therapist include having good communication skills, experience in treating sport injuries, the ability to educate and advise and motivate people who are injured, and organisational and administrative skills to organise the clients. Sports physiotherapy is a highly competitive, which is reflected by the popularity of physiotherapy degrees, which means you have to have around an A star to B ranges in your A levels. The health and safety considerations for this job are DBS checks to protect clients from criminals, ensuring all the equipment is cleaned properly in order to prevent disease and infection spreading, and it must also be considered to work within areas which you